Bob, here's your last week in office full-time. So just want to get a little reflection on your 24 years of town government and how things have changed and where you're looking ahead to.
Um, it's with mixed emotions, I guess. It's the realities setting in. It's been an interesting 24 years. It's a job that the decisions you make them what you believe are in the best interest of the people that you represent. It's not like in private sector when you're worried about, I got to make payroll this week, I've got to make a profit. Here you have the opportunity to make decisions based on the greatest public good. You can't please everybody all the time. As a first selectman, you've got to be willing to make a decision. If you go into it saying, I'm going to please everybody, it's never going to happen. When I first started, my first Council of Governments meeting, I sat next to Ray Barber, who had been first selectman for 20-some years, and I asked him what the secret of his success was. And he said, Sonny, in politics, your friends come and go and your enemies accumulate. It's only a matter of time. And he was voted out the next election. But a lot has changed in 24 years. Social media was not in place 24 years ago. I would go to a meeting and come back, and my administrative assistant would have stickies on my desk, and I would have her prioritize them from the angriest to the least angriest, and I would come back and start addressing the angriest one first. And you picked up the phone or asked them to come in, and you dealt with them face to face or on the telephone. Today I'll come back and I might have one sticky on the desk, but I'll have 50 emails. We've lost a lot of that personal interaction between people. And I don't necessarily think it's a good thing. You go to a restaurant now and you look at a table next to you with a husband and wife and 3 kids, and all 5 of them are on a smartphone or a tablet or something. They're not talking to each other. I think we got to get back to that.
You've always worked with 2 other selectmen, sometimes with the minority party, sometimes without. But you've always been bipartisan, always bipartisan, nonpartisan, really. Reflect on that a little bit about governing versus politics.
We've always had minority representation, so there's always been 2 from one party and 1 from the other party by state statute, and that's a good thing. And being in the majority, that whole time I had a Republican selectman serving with me and a Democrat selectman. And in a lot of communities, especially in the larger communities where it's much more partisan, the majority will take advantage of the ability to caucus. And the legislature takes advantage of the ability to caucus. I don't think we caucused as a Board of Selectmen once or twice in 24 years. We've always tried to work together in a bipartisan fashion or nonpartisan fashion. And I think you almost have to in a small community. The pool of volunteers that want to serve and help their community is limited, and you want the best people you can to serve on boards and commissions.
At least you had candidates this year. A couple of years ago, you wanted to retire, and there wasn't anybody. How did that feel?
Well, again, I think it's very difficult to, for small towns especially, it's a 2-year position. It doesn't pay as well as as an executive or a scientist at Pfizer or an engineer at Electric Boat. So it's very hard to get your best and brightest to say, boy, I want to go do that, but I may only be able to do it for 2 years and I'll get voted out of office, and then I won't have a job to go back to. I won't be eligible for unemployment. And I'm going to be pecked at by ducks for 2 years. So, I think it's doesn't give somebody enough time to implement their ideas before they're up for re-election again. I think there's a lot of value to the position being a 4-year position versus a 2-year position. Tough to do that in the first term of, because the argument goes, what happens if they're not good one?
Do you think you stayed on the job longer because of Norwich Hospital, and it kind of became sort of kind of your white whale to some respect? You wanted to kind of slay that before you moved into retirement?
It certainly was one of the two things that were on my plate when I decided to run 24 years ago. It was trying to get that property redeveloped as they closed it and trying to deal with Native American issues. I certainly would have liked to have this property developed and transferred and wrapped up with a bow on it before I retired. And we're very close, but yeah, I definitely would have liked to have finished that before I retired.
You made what it was a pretty courageous move when you kind of led the charge to have the town take possession of the property from the state. You obviously were convinced that provided the best opportunities, and you could certainly say it's played out that way, as you said earlier. But it wasn't a certain, it wasn't a given that would work out to be the best play. I mean, I think you would even have to acknowledge it was kind of uncharted territory. Were there any kind of sleepless nights? Did you know you were really, it was somewhat of a big gamble to make? What were your kind of feelings, or were you absolutely convinced in the rightfulness of that decision at the time?
That was probably one of the toughest decisions, I think, not only for myself, but I think for the voters of Preston. I had a lot of sleepless nights on, we knew how big a hill that would be, or we thought we knew how big a hill it would. It was a much bigger hill than we even expected it to be, I think. I thought it was the right decision then, although I did have many sleepless nights on is it the best thing? Can we do this? But I firmly believed if we didn't do it, that property would sit there and nothing would happen to it in my lifetime. And I think that's played out with every other state-owned property that the state has, that it's not a priority for them to clean up their messes. And if we go no further than we are right now, we have 383 acres on the river. All but 60 of them are residentially clean. The 60 that are remaining are industrial or commercially clean. And the townspeople right now, I think our debt for that property is around 1.5 million or $2.5 million. I would argue that we made the right decision.
You did the double duty for one term, as state rep and first selectman. We see that in some other towns. Why is it one term? What was the reason that you decided not to continue seeking re-election in that capacity, if my memory serves me right?
I was in the minority in the House when I was there. I found it that the decisions were made by the leadership. You had very little impact on creating legislation or policies that affect the greater good. It was about, I remember the orientation when we all new legislators went to an orientation for a week. And the one common theme was don't rock any boats, don't do anything bold. It's all about getting reelected. And that wasn't why I went there. So at the end of that, and to do both jobs, very, very difficult. There were days that I went back and forth to Hartford 3 times so that I wouldn't miss a meeting here or miss one there. So at the end of the term, I said I knew that I couldn't do both well. So I had to choose which one I thought I could have the most impact on. And it was definitely being first selectman. So I chose not to run again. I mean, we have an example in the area where, Senator Kathy Ostin has been first selectman and state senator. I don't know how she does it. She has an incredible engine. But she's everywhere. But I don't know how she did it.
What about your future? What's plans?
Don't know it currently. I mean, I don't envision myself doing nothing. I'd like to stay involved in regional issues such as economic development with sector and water with I'm on the one of the co-chairs of the Water Utility Coordinating Committee.
Are you going to keep that position?
If I can, I enjoy it. I think it is something that benefits the region. It's something that I have a skill set to add value.
Anything else you want to add?
No, it just, I think probably the most important thing, it's been an incredible honor to, one, be elected 12 times for this position and to serve the people of the town of Preston. My family has been incredibly supportive. It's not always easy on a family, when you're getting beat up in the social media or in the press, but they've been incredibly supportive.